Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Wellbeing at Work podcast series. My name is Christy McGuire, and I am the Vice President of Business Solutions for the Americas region. I am so very excited to be joined by our guest for today's episode on workplace safety, Irene van der Zande. Irene is the founder and executive director of Kidpower International, a global nonprofit leader in people safety education, providing effective and empowering solutions to bullying, abuse, sexual assaults, and other harmful behaviors through online and live workshops, as well as through print publications and digital resources. Irene is an internationally recognized social emotional safety skills expert in designing and implementing in-person and online programs that protect kids, teens, and adults, including those with special needs, from bullying, abuse, harassment, domestic and relationship violence, assault, and abduction. I want to take this opportunity to also mention that Workplace Options has partnered with Kidpower International to be part of our 2024 impact project called Empowering the Future, which will focus on putting the spotlight on the emotional and physical well-being of people of all ages. Through this partnership, Workplace Options employees and member clients will have access to Kidpower's resources, including workshops, online training courses, and tip sheets that cover various well-being and safety topics. Irene, we are so excited for our partnership to flourish. Thank you for joining our chat today.
And thank you. We are also thrilled to be able to work with you and partner with you in this way.
So to kickstart our discussion here today, Irene, from your accumulated years of experience working in this space, why is it important to talk about workplace safety? And what does workplace safety really entail?
You know, every person listening to this podcast has the power to make your own workplace and your co-workers' workplace safer. And by doing that, you are going to be able to protect people from harm and protect yourself. Almost all of us either has a psychological or physical safety concern for ourselves, or at least we know someone who does. And what that means is that, because it doesn't matter what level you're at in an organization or where you work. What it means is that we have the power to put safety in our own hands. We know that safety is everybody's business. It's everybody's business in every part of your life. And so often what happens is that people think, well, it's not my job. I'm not in HR, or I'm not the security guard. And instead, what we can do is be paying attention and use our awareness and overcome the obstacles that make it hard to speak up and to take action. Safety is everybody's business means that we're all part of a community, whether it's at workplace, in our neighborhoods, at schools, everywhere we go. We are a community, and we depend on each other. Even when we're driving down the road, we are depending on other people to drive safely. And we're also depending on ourselves to be paying attention to what's going on and be defensive drivers. And by working together, we can keep each other safe.
Wow, everything you just said is so incredibly powerful. I love your statement. We have the power to put safety in our own hands, and we are all part of a community. There can't be anything further than the truth than that. And I think, when it comes to physical safety to psychological safety, there are just so many layers to workplace safety that they're all interconnected. From your point of view, how can organizations approach this topic and really start to build the frameworks that touch on all the different aspects of workplace safety?
What we need to do is to realize that, safety is a very big word, and I know you talk about well-being, and I totally agree with that at Workplace Options. Because even if it's safety, so a physical safety has the aspect of maybe having a workplace safety problem, something physical in the environment, such as a step that everybody trips over, or a machine that's not being correct, or somebody who's acting aggressively and in a way that threatens your physical well-being. Emotional safety or psychological safety is where people are saying or doing things that are making you miserable. You might be going to work every day and there's one person, or it might be a supervisor, who's saying and doing things that leave you feeling really uncomfortable, and you can do things in each of these. Now a lot of what we teach is advocacy, because even if it's not something that's, if you see a problem, say something. Knowing how to get help and be very persistent in getting the right kind of help to address that problem can make a real difference in somebody not getting injured, for example. So knowing how to speak up, and I'm just going to give you 2 examples because there are so many, many, many examples. So suppose that you have a customer who gets very aggressive, very upset, very threatening, or a coworker, or an employee, or if you're a supervisor, or a client. And this person is saying horrible things to you and threatening you. Knowing how to de-escalate a situation, how to get out of it, practicing a skill like changing the subject, or simply moving away from trouble rather than staying close to it. It's amazing how people don't think to do that. They get caught up in the interaction. And of course, there's a variety of other things that you can do. With the psychological safety, one of the things you can do is just put a hand up. If somebody's saying really, mean, unkind things, and you can't do this with everybody. Here's one technique of many, is just put a hand up in front of you. You can do this right now with your palm facing outward, not in the other person's face, but like you're making a sign that says stop, and just say, please stop. That's one of many, many skills. You can use your voice and body together to take a fast, free, effective action that will stop most behavior. Now, because lots of people don't like being told what to do, in fact, most people don't like being told what to do, or that they did something or said something that was hurtful, they might react negatively at first. So there are many ways to persist and being prepared to persist in setting that please stop boundary. That's uncomfortable. That's not safe. It's not okay with me.
Wow. I mean, do you think that a lot of organizations miss the psychological safety? I think everybody's so focused always on the physical, but they don't realize the connection between the two.
Absolutely. That's a really good point, because people, the data on your own website is that people are upset about workplace bullying. Mm-hmm. And bullying is everywhere, in the office, in the environment. And it's like, we have a lot of data now that says that that's damaging for people. And yet it's like pollution, though. It doesn't usually kill you right away, but it can sure make you sick. Bullying and harassment. It creates a upsetting psychological environment. What we have to help people understand is that it is a form of an assault, even if it's unintentional or accidental. If somebody is running too fast and they bang into you and knock you over and you get injured, that's an accident. However, there are things you can do to notice that is that kind of person. But if you see somebody knocking somebody down or somebody threatening to hurt somebody, then it's obvious. The problem with this is, and so what we say is, take action for yourself or for others in the same way that you'd stop somebody from hitting somebody else. Now that might not be that you get in between the person, the person that's hitting and the person that's being hit, but it could be that you're yelling for them to stop. It could be that you're yelling to get help.
I think what's interesting about everything you just said and going back to how physical and psychological safety are interconnected, today leaders have so much more to do when it comes to these things. They have to be able to pivot in situations. They have to be on the lookout for when things are going on in the workplace, more than just doing their day-to-day skills and job duties. And so they do play a very pivotal role in setting the tone for this workplace safety. How do you believe organizations begin to enlist leadership to be authentic and proactive to really set the stage for what are acceptable and ethical safety practices?
Leadership can take action by creating a culture of putting safety first, ahead of everything else. Ahead of embarrassment, inconvenience, offense, money, reputation. When you say we are going to put safety and well-being first, and then you say, so what's stopping this? Is it uncomfortable feelings? Is it resources? That helps people to make those choices. We want to have not just words about safety. It's so easy to write a policy that nobody reads or have that sign up on the wall and saying, watch out, be careful, here's 5 things. We need to give people actual skills. We need to practice if it's involving how to take an action safely or how to do an intervention safely. We want to walk the talk and teach people to be leaders for safety on all levels, from the top down, from the sides in, and from the bottom up. And we need to empower them with those tools for speaking up. That's what we do. We give people the skills for advocating effectively and skills for listening, even when you are uncomfortable or overwhelmed or the person is speaking to you in a really annoying way. Teaching people how to protect their time so they can manage these conversations rather than just letting somebody go on in an endless loop and yet still get the information you need makes such a difference. If you walk past somebody, for example, who's being aggressive to somebody else, or you're allowing it in a meeting, allowing somebody to really put down somebody else, not just give constructive, feedback, let's work on this together, but shaming somebody or taking credit for their work. And if you walk past, you are giving a lie to your commitment to psychological safety. If you make promises to do something, say, about personal safety or physical safety, and then you don't, then it sounds like you don't really mean it. So that's why we want to give people the skills and to show that your behavior really does make a difference in letting people know not just that you want to talk about safety, but that you care about having a workplace culture of safety.
Those are all really wonderful things. And I would imagine a good place to start is training your leadership team to know what these skill sets are. I think there's a lot of people that don't know how or don't feel comfortable. And so how do we help our leaders know how to take the next step if we see something in the workplace? And what do we do if we see it, right?
Yes, and that's a lot of what we teach is teaching people how to speak up, how to listen, how to manage people's reactions, and not to let your own emotional, biases or mindsets get in the way. And it does take practice. We say that it takes 3 things for change in behavior to happen: awareness of what's happening, noticing, understanding, realizing that it's not safe and that things are possible, and then skills for acting on your awareness and understanding. Skills means that you actually practice, you rehearse how to say and do something and how to persist in setting a boundary or persist in getting help if that's what you need, instead of getting discouraged or giving up or thinking it just won't work.
So when it comes to emotional safety, we all go through situations and circumstances in our lives that do cause emotional triggers in us, whether it happened at work or whether something happened outside of our work in our personal lives. How can people not only keep themselves safe and be resilient enough in the face of these triggers, but also feel empowered enough to be authentic and speak up when their boundaries are crossed?
What a great question. Now, we say, because not everybody will have the same meaning for triggers. Triggers are thoughts, words, behaviors, or other things that we encounter that cause us to be flooded with feelings. Now, there are positive triggers that can actually get people in trouble, like liking somebody so much you're positively triggered that you don't notice when they're doing something that's not ethical or not safe. Or you don't notice it yourself because you're so wanting to help and then maybe violating somebody else's space in that process. Negative triggers, which is what people usually mean by triggers, are uncomfortable feelings that can overwhelm us. It could be taking in or hearing messages like you're worthless, you're helpless, or take care of me, which are forms of verbal attack. Or it could just be feeling just flooded with despair. People have histories, and some of us, many of us, have traumatic histories that can cause things to create a bigger reaction than somebody else might understand. Knowing this about somebody, recognizing for other people when they're triggered, and recognizing for yourself when you're triggered takes practice, but it's something that we can learn to do. When somebody is saying or doing something that is upsetting for you, feels disrespectful, or is crossing your boundaries in some other way, or when you're feeling overwhelmed by these feelings, it's important to know that you have choices because choices give you power. You might want to remove yourself from the situation at first until you calm down and figure out what's going on. And removing yourself could be just saying, excuse me, I forgot I got to go get something done. Or excuse me, I just need to take a break right now. Or it could be, disconnecting from the conversation. It could be physically walking away. It could be changing the subject, saying, excuse me, I don't want to talk about that right now, but can you tell me about how things are going, with your family? It's to change the subject, say if you're in a social situation at work. Letting the other person know is really important though, and that was the heart of your question, is to tell the person the way that you said that. You want to tell them without shaming them. Or, and you can say something like, the way that you said that, we often talk about setting boundaries with a bridge, so acknowledging the other person's good intentions or assuming that they have good intentions, even if they've done it over and over again and haven't taken in what you want them to know. But you could say, I understand that was just a joke for you and that you find it funny. And I appreciate your sense of humor most of the time. And making disparaging remarks about people's ethnicity or immigration status or gender identity expression or about their level of income or how they dress or how they look. Comments like that are not okay with me. They're against our values here at the workplace of treating people with respect. And I would like you to find it would work better for me if you just said, I feel uncomfortable around this person, or I don't know how to talk with this person, instead of making jokes like that. So you'd want to, this is just an example, one specific example. We have a boundaries personal practice where people actually write down what they want to say and then rehearse in front of a mirror, and then practice dealing with all the negative reactions they're afraid that person will have. So this is a way to prepare yourself so that you are kind, authentic, and yet still clear. We can take power out of triggers if we realize they're overwhelming us and they're happening all over the place by understanding them. And sometimes it's a word. And so we have like 10 emotional safety skills now about how to take the power out of triggers. And it can be but it can be as simple as if it's a specific word is we call it just saying that word and then repeating it or saying something with it like your favorite food so that it becomes a set of sounds instead of just that word. Or suppose somebody looks at you in a way that reminds you of your mother and that's triggering for you. Then we can make pictures and of your mother and this person and just say this is not the same person. So there's ways, or reframe something. If you're saying to yourself, I can't, you can reframe that to I have not yet learned how to do this. And finally, knowing how to get appropriate help. And people often have resistance to getting help because socially we're taught that we should solve things ourselves. We need to be independent, and getting help is weak or silly or childlike. However, it doesn't have to mean that the minute you're upset with somebody, you run to HR. It can mean that getting help is actually talking the situation over with a friend and figuring out how to practice what to say and do. We had somebody that was having a mentor who was supposed to be helping her be successful on the workplace, but the mentor was putting her down and making things worse. And so what we did is we rehearsed with her how she was going to explain this to her supervisor because she'd already tried with the mentor and it wasn't working. And by getting a different mentor, which the supervisor did, then she suddenly went from a miserable experience as an intern to having a wonderful experience at work.
Wow. I mean, I can't tell you how amazing examples are. All of those examples you shared really helps bring to light how we can apply safety in our personal lives and at work. One of the things that I won't forget is the statement you made around choices give you power. And I think that's a very powerful statement where if people can learn that in our communities and wherever we're helping others, it can really help people in a lot of situations that they may be in. So I guess this leads me to my last question to you is, we talked about training leaders earlier on, but what strategies can organizations use to continuously improve workplace safety and truly measure their effectiveness?
These are just such great questions, Christy. I really appreciated the chance to have this interview with you, and I really appreciate Workplace Options' commitment to safety and to having us join you in increasing what that means and how to do it. Again, we teach that safety is everybody's business, and one of the ways that a business or an organization can create a culture of workplace safety is to realize that workplace safety is also good business. Think of the benefits when you focus on this. You have improved morale, better productivity, people stay around longer, so you don't have to hire as many new people, less risk of lawsuits, people less calling in sick, less liability, legal bills. I could go on and on. When we create an environment where people feel valued, safe, effective, and happy at work, it benefits everybody. However, we also need to make it safe to speak up. We need to, it's not enough, if we're too busy, it isn't that we can't be too busy at that moment, but we can make time to talk to that person later. And if we have a hard time listening to that person, we can get somebody else to do it with us or for us. We want to create space to pause and say, Are there any safety concerns, psychological or physical, that anybody has had? This could be in meetings with leadership, saying, has anybody heard anything? And of course, there are many ways to let people, if they don't feel safe speaking up with their direct supervisor, to do it anonymously or to do it through HR. But you've got to tell people how to do it. And we need to acknowledge that some people, not very many, but some will take advantage of creating openings like this and make life harder, which is why sometimes people in leadership don't want to make space at all. And instead of trying to suppress a concern, learning how to deal with somebody who is being difficult, and listening to the truth of what they say, or investigating and realizing that maybe this person just isn't in the right place in your organization or isn't in the right organization, but that they weren't wrong for speaking up. Don't make it be about their speaking up. Make it be about other things, because if they're doing this, misusing, safety, they are probably doing other things that have nothing to do with that and have everything to do with their jobs. Everybody likes the idea of safety, but very few organizations know actually how to make it happen in a consistent way. And so what we want to do is help organizations and the people in leadership and the people at every level in organizations know what they can say and do to make a culture of safety, to create it and to have it thrive.
I think you're 100% correct when you say consistency is the key. It's not about putting something in place one time and hope that it works for everyone. There has to be a consistent process to really build the safe culture that organizations are looking for. And that's, like you said, can be done through so many different avenues and directions. But that is the key, consistency.
And it's communication, just writing things down, they end up getting stuck on a shelf somewhere or put out of date. It's not wrong. Of course, it's good to write things down because it helps make things clear, make agreements clear. One of the ways of doing it is, and I know that at Workplace Options you do the day one statement from the Tyler Clementi Foundation, the proclamation. You'd use that practice, but you can do a proclamation that says, "I care about your safety," from the leader in the organization and from the leaders in every department. I care about your safety. And if you know or see a safety problem, I really want to know. Even if I'm busy, even if somebody will be upset, even if it's embarrassing or you made a mistake, I really want to know, and I will do everything I can to fix it. I mean, imagine what it would be if we said that to each other. And it's, each person to peer as well as people in leadership. And we showed that we really meant it.
Irene, I just cannot thank you enough for your time and for sharing all these wonderful insights and experiences. And to all of our listeners, we hope you found this discussion helpful and insightful and empowering. Thank you so very much.